One.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of the Wrestling Estate Freak Show. My name is Jack Goodwillie, your charming host, once again joined by a friend of mine who actually watched the SummerSlam with this year last week, Calvin Gibbon. Calvin, how you doing?
We had our first real meeting.
Yeah, it happened.
I'm good. It happened.
Yeah, I went to Calvin's house in LA and watched the show. And I have to say, it actually exceeded my expectations as a show. Although there were some inherent problems that kind of came out of that we'll definitely touch on. But we'll dig into the card, and we'll dig into some NXT TakeOver as well. Did you see both shows?
Yeah, I saw both shows. It's a marathon. A lot of wrestling this weekend.
Too much wrestling. I think that was the big thing for me with the SummerSlam card. I'll just come out and say I thought it was one of the best shows of the year, for sure, for WWE, but too long. You know, I think it was after the Daniel Bryan Miz match, I realized that we still had two more matches to go, plus the Elias segment before we even got to the co-main event. It was brutal. And I didn't even get to see the Dolph Ziggler match. I got there just as that was ending. So I can't even imagine what it was like for you guys who watched the whole show.
Yeah, it's long. It's just, eventually your attention span starts to wane. Unfortunately for me, it happened during the Daniel Bryan and Miz match, which was the match I was most excited for. But I was just staring at it like, I've already seen 2.5 hours. Now we're getting into the nitty gritty.
Yeah. So, what do you think? Do you want to start with SummerSlam or TakeOver?
Let's jump right into NXT, I think.
Okay. Yeah. So NXT, I didn't get to see the whole thing. I've seen bits and pieces, and there were definitely some moments that stood out. Where did this rank for you, Calvin, as far as takeovers go? Because for me, I don't know about you, but for me, they're becoming very hard to rank. They're all just really, really good.
I mean, the wrestling is always really top-notch. They went through a little rebuilding process towards the end of last year, beginning of this year. But now the characters are all really solid. Yeah, the in-ring work was excellent on this show, as it almost always is on a takeover. But I don't know. It's definitely upper tier. I don't know if it's the best one ever.
Yeah, I don't think it's the best one. But there was a lot of good stuff, and I'll get to Ricochet and Adam Cole when we get there. But show started out with Undisputed Era taking on Mustache Mountain in what was another knock 'em down, drag 'em out tag team match for the Undisputed Era. What did you think, Calvin?
Yeah, that was just a lot of fun. I'm really surprised the Undisputed Era retained, but it all made sense a lot later in the show with the result of Adam Cole versus Ricochet.
Yeah, I think so too.
They didn't want to go the full switch of their power dynamic. They wanted them to still have some power in NXT.
Yeah, it's sort of the old Evolution deal. They get all the titles but they don't lose them all at once. They lose them slowly.
But I just want to keep seeing Tyler Bates suplexing as many people as he can.
Yeah, and doing it in the unorthodox ways that he does. Listen, he is no doubt a future star. I didn't question when he won the United Kingdom tournament, but I thought it was a little out of left field. Here you have all these accomplished names. Mark Andrews was a personal favorite of mine in that tournament. I loved Wolfgang. But then you had 21-year-old Tyler Bate and Pete Dunne in the final. But they put on a hell of a match. And by the end of the tournament, and then the weeks following that, I definitely started to see the appeal of Tyler Bate. Small guy, thighs are massive, and
Yeah.
He can do some stuff that no one else can do, and he's learned to do it at such an age and do it in such a way that it's so old school, and having, I guess, that mentality instilled at such a young age is huge for his prospects down the line. I think he's a future world champion.
Yeah, so long as he stays healthy, I could see him on the main roster fairly easily. Definitely on 205 Live. He's an incredible athlete.
Well, hey, I don't want him on 205 Live. I want him in the main angle, and Pete Dunne as well. I've talked to nauseam about that. No, 205 Live would be a death wish for him, I think, unless we start getting to the point where we're graduating guys from 205 Live. And that hasn't happened yet. There's no precedent for that. But he's all that Tyler Bate is.
Agreed.
Yeah, so great match. It did remind me a little bit of the match they did with Birch and Lorcan at the last takeover. But that was, a hell of a match too. It's great. It's great that Roderick Strong has been able to fill in so adequately, or not. That kind of like undersells it. He's been great. It's been a great fill in for Bobby Fish. It was a great idea, and I remember when he turned, I called that because they've been teasing that for months, and I knew that if Fish was going to need a replacement, because he was going to be out for the year. Look no further than Roderick Strong, and I saw that angle done before, and I was just like slam dunk, and sure enough. But here we are, and they're continuing to put on great matches. And Kyle O'Reilly has something to him too.
He's really unique.
Go ahead. Yeah, there's no coincidence that that he was in the World Championship program with Adam Cole in Ring of Honor. There's no one like him from both an in-ring standpoint and a personality standpoint. Time will tell with him too, but again, I think he's a future fixture in the World Championship picture.
I'm just hoping that and I'm going on a little bit of a tangent here, but sure. I'm just hoping that when they do bring up the Undisputed Era, that they're immediately thrown into a main event program. I could see them doing something similar to how they started out the Nexus. Just have a really shocking debut.
Shock the system. Yeah.
I just don't want them to get watered down. I'm really disappointed with how they've handled Sanity so far.
Well, I'm disappointed in how they pretty much handle everything all the time. But I'm not going to go off just yet. I will, though. Don't you worry about that. No, they're going to be fine. Adam Cole is unstoppable. You can't deny the connection he makes with the fans every time he steps in the ring, every time he talks.
Yeah.
People hang on his every word. And it's kind of crazy that I'm talking about him as this guy, because for a while in Ring of Honor, he was a great wrestler that had no personality. Well, when he turned heel, it just kind of opened this Pandora's box as to what he could be, which was a Shawn Michaels-esque heel character, or really just the first Adam Cole. We always talk about guys that who's going to be the next this guy, the next that guy, but I think he's gotten to the point where now he's the first Adam Cole, and that's going to make him a lot of money very, very soon.
Yeah, the parallels to great and talented wrestlers that have come before him are right there. So it's just a matter of them utilizing his talents properly and giving him the chance.
And the thing is, he's a guy that, I've listened to a few of his interviews. He does a lot of film study. not just on matches, but more so with the promo. And he cited CM Punk as actually one of his biggest influences in that area. No
Okay.
coincidence.
I can see a little bit of that now that you mentioned that.
Totally. Let's move on to the Velveteen Dream and EC3. And I was stunned at the result of this. The Velveteen Dream's NXT gimmick, aside from the Velveteen Dream gimmick itself, was that he'd build these takeover programs and then lose. But this time, not the case.
Yeah, he beat him.
Yeah.
Very happy that he beat him. I don't think EC3 suffers from losing, so I'm happy Velveteen won because he needed one. It felt like, at least on his win-loss record, he needed one.
I don't think EC3 suffers here either, but I am starting to think that maybe he's starting to get kind of lost in the shuffle a little bit. In NXT, there didn't used to be all this talent they've got right now. I know you said they went through a rebuilding phase, but did they really? Because even though you graduate all these guys, you get all these guys coming in, you just have to build them up. And if there were a mid card of NXT, I think EC3 is kind of in it. And truthfully, I think his impact would be better felt on the main roster today rather than in NXT. I think he can work for both, but he was always at his best when he was the focal point of things in TNA, being a bit of a side character and putting him with the Velveteen Dream. You kind of have this contrast of big personalities, but only one could really be the big personality. And when you had Velveteen Dream and Ricochet, which was one of my favorite matches of the year at the last takeover, you had the dynamic of Ricochet being, the foil to Velveteen Dream, whereas with EC3, it was just kind of like Rock versus Rock.
Yeah, they have similar goals, and it was just the conclusion of their pissing contest over the last several weeks of who can you top this. Yeah, I think EC3 could easily be moved to the main roster pretty much at any time, and he would do just fine.
Yeah, I don't think he's a guy, because remember, NXT at the end of the day is developmental. I always keep stressing that because I think people lose sight of that because we get spoiled with these great matches all the time. But it's for guys that have holes in their game to fix those holes, or guys coming in from like Japan to adjust to more of the WWE's simpler style, or guys that just suck and need to get better.
Right.
But I don't think he's got much left to prove in the ring. He kind of is what he is. As Derek Bateman, he had a lot of holes, but he really cleaned that up in TNA, and I just don't really see much more upside there. And he's got the character down, so what's left? If you're not going to put the belt on him, could be time for a move.
But we're ignoring the most important part. Velveteen Dream's always on point wrestling attire.
Yeah, well, I was gonna mention that Triple H in the post takeover conference call, it seems as though he's trying to bring back kayfabe, because he said that Velveteen Dream went and acted out in his own, putting the "Sign Me Vince" graphic on his tights, but I just can't see that. I can't see that. WWE is so regimented that everything's got to get cleared. So how do you sneak one past the goalie?
Yeah, I don't know how you sneak one past. But then again, it is ring attire, so I'm sure they don't do much of like a look over, except for to make sure everything's PG.
I guess. And there was something else in the main event where Triple H kind of does that, but we'll get to that. Next match was Ricochet over Adam Cole, and while if I were to put this match up with the Velveteen Dream match, I'd probably slightly lean to the Velveteen Dream match because I just love the dynamic they had so much. But
Really
you can't.
interesting.
Yeah, but
because I'm on the opposite. I'm on the opposite end. I thought Cole and Ricochet maybe had the best match of the weekend.
They probably did. Yeah, I don't know. I have to watch it both back and then think about that. I know it was close, and I was partial, especially after finding out that the intro sequence to their match with Ricochet and Dream was intended to mirror Hogan versus The Rock.
Ha! That is really good.
Did you know that?
It's really good. I didn't notice that.
Yeah, there's a video.
I'm gonna have to watch that back.
Them. There's a video that has it side by side. Wild.
That's awesome.
Yeah. But yeah, phenomenal match. Adam Cole. What more can you say? Ricochet is the best athlete that pro wrestling has maybe ever seen, and he proved it one more time.
Yeah, and it was just a really good, cut and dry, good guy versus bad guy match. I was really expecting shenanigans in one of the Undisputed Era matches. We didn't get it, so I was pleasantly surprised about that.
Yeah. Sometimes you just got to let them go. Like, you can't have the Stormtroopers running into every Darth Vader one-on-one confrontation. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Sometimes you need to let the heel stand on their own. And to my surprise, the match actually ran shorter than I first anticipated. But they really made it worth your while. And that the moonsault, the shooting star press super kick might be spot of the year.
That was amazing.
It was perfectly timed, and wrestling is 50%. Well, everybody has a different expression, but timing means a lot, right? And
timing means everything.
And they timed it perfectly. And it's part of the reason why I do think Ricochet is one of the best athletes to ever do this, even over the likes of AJ Styles, because when he can, and it just goes back to my previous point that NXT is developmental, and different guys have to work on different things. Ricochet needed to work on, and Triple H mentioned this after the show. He said one of the things they were really trying to work on with Ricochet is taking his exotic offense and making it look not so easy for him to pull off. And also said that was a problem for Shawn Michaels adjusting from tag team wrestler to main eventer that had to stand on his own. Was just kind of because he was so good, everything looked so smooth. But it is a simulated fight, so maybe trying to make it so that it doesn't look so easy and that you're like struggling a little bit could go a long way. And I think he's we've already seen that with him. I think he's come leaps and bounds from that infamous Will Ospreay match where it was like dance fighting.
Yeah, it was.
But now he's rightfully a champion in NXT.
Yeah, and I've definitely seen the progress from just what he's done in the indies, because I've been a big fan of his for a while. Even though it was dance combat, I really loved that Will Ospreay match. Just for the sheer athleticism that they put on display. But this is definitely more of a fight. It felt like a fight between him and Adam Cole, which is what I come to value in WWE style, NXT style matches, where it's not just move, 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 everyone's getting up, nothing means anything, there's no selling.
Yeah, and I think that's definitely what's going to take him to that next echelon. Let me ask you a question. If you were to think about the top 3 wrestlers in the world, or maybe even the top 5, does Ricochet make the cut?
So I'm assuming we're saying currently active.
Yeah, in the world, active wrestling today.
For me, top 5, I think he'd be my number 5.
Okay.
He'd be my number 5.
Yeah, I'm not sure, but if this keeps up, what this run he's been on since coming into NXT, starting with that ladder match, it's not going to be long before we're talking about him in the convo of AJ and Omega and Okada and Tanahashi and Samoa Joe and all these guys.
Definitely. And he's also someone who I want on the main roster. I don't want him to go into 205 live, although he'd do really well there. I want to see him challenge for the world title.
Well, I think his fan footprint is large enough now to where he along with Ciampa and Gargano are all gonna go past 205 live.
I hope so, man, because a part of me is really nervous that they're going to get this idea of like, well, maybe if we just like cram it with stars, then maybe people will care. And I just don't see that happening. I think it's a niche audience. I've got friends who really like it, but it's definitely a niche audience.
Yeah, that'll work the day they stop putting title matches on the fucking pre-show.
That's a big point right there. When are they going to stop doing that?
I don't know, man. It's not my company, but I certainly wouldn't do it. You're talking about the best in the world, in your world, quote unquote, under 205 pounds. In the UFC, that would main event the whole show.
Exactly. It would be up there with the world title.
Yeah, I mean,
and it's just they're not letting it be presented that way.
If this were real, and you're talking about the best wrestler in the world under 205 pounds, that would be the co-main event to your world title matches. No doubt about it. But at least put them in the opener. Just get them on the show. Because they're good. And when you're good, you're good. And you don't need size. And you don't need, all these nitpicking things. They still think it takes to be a star today.
Definitely. And especially if you want people to tune in more to that show. If you give it for free on YouTube, like what's my incentive for buying the WWE network?
Yeah, right. We'll get to that. Kairi Sane and Shayna Baszler for the NXT Women's title. Surprised with the ending, but I love the end. I love the finish to this match.
Yeah, I think you could make an argument that this was the best women's match of the weekend.
Maybe.
The drama was pretty good. Shayna Baszler has really come into her own. She's a old school badass. You really hate her heel. She strikes the fear for her opponents whenever she walks into the ring.
Yeah, absolutely. She's made for this, and there's no arguing that. I don't know if I was surprised with the ending as much, because I was watching the build up to this match on NXT the prior weeks, and they were teasing a new side to Kairi Sane that was going to maybe put her over the top. But at the same time, when they went into this program, it definitely felt like it was going to be just another notch in Shayna's belt too. So I wasn't really sure what to think. But at the end of the day, the story here really is that Kairi Sane has Shayna Baszler's number. Remember, this was the Mae Young Classic final from last year, and a lot of people thought Shayna was going over in that match because she had probably more to gain, perhaps.
Yeah, I felt that too.
We later found out that wasn't necessarily the case, and she ended up being just fine, and they were able to get to this match. But the story here now is that Kairi Sane, the smaller pirate princess, owns Shayna Baszler.
Yeah, I mean, it's a good story since they have that history already established on WWE TV from the tournament. But definitely, I felt the same way going into that match. When Kairi beat her, I was like, oh, okay, that's really cool. Didn't see that coming. Because Shayna's just been such a beast. Like she just eats up the competition. So I figured they were gonna maybe play that out a little longer. But Kairi brought the intensity. She looked like a champion. She fought like a champion, even though she's smaller. She made everything look good.
Yeah, and I think it also helps that she can kind of play into Shayna's MMA style a little bit. A lot of opponents can't, and Shayna's not very versatile. So you've seen that hurt some of her matches. I think it hurt her with Ember Moon,
Definitely.
and I don't think the Nikki Cross match was very good at all. But that being said,
no, that was really disappointing. I was expecting a lot more from that match.
Yeah. But that's what you're gonna. I mean, remember, she hasn't. I mean, she has been doing this like longer than a lot of her four horsewomen brethren or sisterkin, whatever you want to call it. But at the same time, she did get into this kind of late. So you're not really going to be able to make her this all round wrestler that's just going to be able to work with everybody. You are going to get stinkers sometimes, but the good is really good. And I think we saw that last Saturday.
Yeah, it's going to be whoever her dance partner is, and that's fine. She'll evolve. She clearly is very passionate about this and really likes her role. So I'm excited to see what she does in the future. And it seems like they're going to do one more of these between the two of them.
And they should. Shayna, is going to have to prove that, Kairi Sane does not own her. Kind of like the Guerrero Mysterio rivalry from the mid 2000s.
Exactly. Yeah.
Ray just beat Eddie over and over and over again, and when you finally thought Eddie was going to win, Ray would beat him one more time, and then they did a cage match on SmackDown, and then Eddie just beat him.
Yeah.
But yeah, Shayna gets it, so she'll be fine, and looking forward to her next match. Main event: Tommaso Ciampa, Johnny Gargano. What did you think?
I don't think it topped their last match. That being said, I really enjoyed it. I would have. It's just too bad the triple threat didn't happen due to Aleister Black's injury. But they brought it, man. They used all the bells and whistles. They tried to up it as much as you could in a last man standing match.
They did. But you definitely get the impression this will not be the last time they main event a takeover.
No, it's not going to be the last time, and I don't know if it should be. I'm just kind of confused where you go from here, because now it's starting to seem like even though he keeps getting lucky, Tommaso Ciampa may have an angel on his shoulder that's keeping him in the win column right now.
The Aleister Black triple threat would have been perfect for this feud because it would have shaken things up a little bit as opposed to being this violent, brutal one-on-one conflict. I feel like we saw this match last time.
We did in many ways.
Different rules. And I think for Johnny and Tommaso, it must have been like deja vu as well. Because now I'm thinking about spots from both matches, and it's kind of like intersecting. And I think that's kind of hurting their feud in some ways. So I don't know where they go from here.
Yeah, it's starting to feel like where Triple H and Shawn Michaels got when they were feuding. It's starting to get to the point where now, okay, where do we go from here? I'm not saying I'm not excited for more. I am, but they need to find a way to do one more, make it mean something, and then separate the two of them.
Let me ask you this. If you're going to end the Tommaso Ciampa Johnny Gargano feud in NXT, what stipulation does that match have?
I'm not sure. Maybe they already did kind of a loser leaves to start the rivalry all over again. But you could do that. Loser leaves NXT. So there's a guarantee that you won't see this again. But maybe a ladder match would be one way to do it.
Okay. See, I have two ideas, and one of them came from Steve Austin's review of the show.
What?
And that one would be, these guys, all their matches just brutal chaos. The only way they can truly settle their differences and find out who is better, if you leave the ring, you lose.
Interesting.
Keep it all in the ring and make it a one-on-one wrestling match to decide who's better, and then that's that.
That is definitely an old school stipulation.
Yeah, couldn't you see William Regal being like, enough is enough. We're gonna end this right now, and you're gonna keep it in the ring.
No ring out rules.
Yeah, I mean that's not been done in this generation of WWE. I don't think it's ever been done.
Not in a long time. I would really have to look that one up.
And these days, it's so hard to do new stuff, right? So, that'd be cool. And my original idea was always, though, 3 Stages of Hell.
That's a classic, too. And that's very WWE.
Yeah. It's the ultimate match to end all matches in a feud. So you can go there as well if you want. Curious to see how this Aleister Black angle plays out, though, and if we'll ever get that triple threat that was promised on this show.
I really wanted that triple threat. I really did. It would have been like because the story between Gargano and Ciampa is so personal. Throwing Aleister Black in the middle, it's just like it would have felt like Shawn versus Brett versus Undertaker if that had ever happened.
Yeah, that's a good analogy. So we'll see. Moving on to SummerSlam. I don't necessarily want to give each match the time we just gave those matches because it's a long show, and a lot of these matches were nothing matches. Did you watch the pre-show?
Yeah, I caught the pre-show before, and I feel like the Cruiserweight match was really great. And again, just adds more fuel to that fire of like, why is this not on the main card? Why can't we make room? Daniel Bryan and Miz could have been like 8 minutes shorter, and we could have had this match.
Yeah, you could do that. You could also, I don't know how I would have changed the card. There were a lot of matches, but it also kind of didn't feel like it. I don't know how necessary the New Day Bludgeon Brothers match was. Oh yeah, you know what I would do? I would evict the B team from all cards going forward. That's my solution.
I think we're in agreement. And I like both of them, but it's just like the matches are nothing. They're nothing.
Do you?
I like their work.
Okay.
I'm not necessarily all enthusiastic about a comedy tag team champions.
Okay. Yeah, I don't like them, and I'll tell you why.
Okay.
They're just it's such a disappointment to see the kind of potential they were purported to have, being second and third. I mean, I think they're both third generation wrestlers.
Yeah, they're both third.
And to just have their career, like they never got better in any way. No, I think Bo Dallas kind of, he got saddled with the bull leave gimmick, and that was funny for a moment, like when he's running around the ring and he knocks down El Torito.
Yes.
You see that clip? That's good. That's good comedy. But I thought he was always destined for more than that, and it just never happened. And then Curtis Axel just never got better. You know, they tried with him. They even took away his shitty ass name and Michael McGillicuddy. But he didn't connect. And now they have to be in the shitty tag team that is now
with the worst theme music ever. The worst theme music ever. I would take RTC's music in a heartbeat.
Yeah, I don't like the music at all. And I can't tell if the crowd's into it or not because they pipe in the crowd in the theme music.
Yeah, which is
you can't tell. Wow. And now they're feuding with what many people believed at one time was the best tag team in the world.
They definitely were in NXT.
Yeah. And then like
I don't know, man. It's yeah, because you put the belts on them, and now that their stick is like, we win accidentally. Wah wah. It's like it's hard to have a serious tag team match even with a team like the Revival.
And then they glorify that.
Yeah. Then they glorify that.
So I'm just done with both those guys. I don't wish to see them wrestle anymore.
They could be on the pre-show. I think we're in agreement.
I mean, the truth of the matter is, with all this talent coming up from NXT, they're going to need spots. So, I mean, you talk about future cuts. You know, those that's probably where I start.
Sad to say, but I think we're in agreement on that as well.
I don't mean that to be a dick, you know. But you know, it's the cold dark world. I'm going to skip the Lana and Rusev mixed tag match. You said you liked Cedric Alexander, Drew Gulak. I like that match too, but unfortunately, WWE is treating it like it doesn't matter. So, in the interest of time,
yeah, and they forced them to rush too.
Yeah, like that match could have given that another 5 minutes.
Definitely.
Yeah, but the show started out with Seth Rollins and Ziggler. Perplexed again by the booking of this feud, how you go from an Iron Man match back to a singles match. But it went 22 minutes. That was almost the longest match in the show. What did you think?
Yeah, it was a really long match. It also didn't feel like, I think I'm kind of agreeing with you here. It just didn't feel like it had the importance of their Iron Man match.
Well, I saw the Iron Man, and I loved that match. A lot of people didn't, but I did. I got it.
And this one, they felt like they took their time. There were some moments that were a little sloppy. I don't know. It wasn't as great. It wasn't as great. It was still fun to see that flipping that top rope reverse suplex into the reverse DDT. That was amazing.
Yeah, that kind of stuff will never get old with Seth Rollins. But I wonder how far back you have to go to find a pay-per-view card. And I know this isn't these aren't pay-per-views anymore, but it is what it is. I wonder how far back you'd have to go where you'd find an opening match that was the longest match of the show. Because if Samoa Joe and AJ goes a minute less, and The Miz and Daniel Bryan go a minute and a half less, that's what we have.
Wow. Yeah, they really gave him some time. They really gave him some time. Yeah. I didn't realize that it broke down that way. It didn't feel that long in watching it, so I guess that's a compliment. Yeah,
I will say this. I think Seth Rollins is obviously the workhorse of this company, and if anybody should have long matches, it's him. But I do think that his matches are now starting to have the gimmick of that they're going to be really long. When his offense is so good that they don't always have to be that long. We can have, 10-minute Seth Rollins matches, and that would be okay with me.
It doesn't need to be that long. but I guess I understand why they let it go that long. Because this is like the third or fourth match of the feud.
You think it's the blow off?
It could be. Um, Although we haven't gotten to Raw yet. Raw kind of throws a lot of things into a new light and could be going a totally different direction.
Yeah. We'll get to that. I mean, you could, I guess, do Rollins and McIntyre now.
Definitely. But anyways, let's keep going.
Yeah. So I showed up right around this point. The New Day versus the Bludgeon Brothers, and I don't think this match was necessary for the card, but I will say, although we got a DQ finish, maybe the best match the Harper Rowan tag team, even as the Wyatt family, I've ever had.
Yeah, this was really good. Because they had already broken the mystique with them fighting Team Hell No, of like, hey, if you just survive the overwhelming onslaught, you start getting your offense and you can do some damage to the Bludgeon Brothers. So the New Day, they hung in there. They started making a comeback. And then the big mean team decided we don't want to lose our titles.
Yeah, I didn't like that at all, especially since it was not the only DQ finish we had. We just did this roundtable with Vince McMahon, and I guess I'll start here for this rant. One of the questions was, what was his biggest mistake? And I took that time, and I ended up putting together this ultra long ranty rant on all the shit wrong with WWE today. But I think what it really boiled down to was the insanity of the DQ finish in pro wrestling. Let's take this analogy, right? And let's apply it to any other competitive thing ever, whether it's T-ball or it's the NBA Finals. But I'll use the NBA Finals analogy for visibility's sake. So imagine it's Game 7. The Cavs are up on the Warriors, and they're about to win. And then Draymond Green runs on the court, and he knocks LeBron James out with a closed fist, and they disqualify the Warriors. But the Warriors are still the champions. In what planet does that make any sense at all?
In the wacky and wonderful world of professional wrestling.
It makes my jaw it makes my jaw drop every time I see that stuff, and I just shake my head. And the thing is, WWE is the only company that really does this anymore. If you watch Impact, that you pretty much get a resolution to every match. Same with the count out. What if? Okay, same scenario. Cavs are up. Cavs are up in Game 7. Warriors are down. They're gonna lose, but they leave, so they can keep their belt. They can keep their championship.
Well, count out at least has some precedent, at least in boxing. But I get your point. Like, you don't get rewarded by purposefully getting yourself counted out. That's true.
Yeah, and in any world where you have these rules, right? And the fans like, those rules suck. You know what happens? They change the rules. So the perception that the fan that believes this shit is real thinks is that these board of directors just sit in their little offices with their feet up on the desk, peeling a banana and eating it. And then not giving a shit about these rules that just suck. Just so they have an out to extend feuds much longer than they have to. The truth is, your roster is so fucking big that it couldn't hurt to see new opponents every once in a while. But it's not like you save these feuds anyway. You just give these matches away on free TV, and you don't even incentivize people to buy the network to watch the big blow off. It makes me so mad.
Well,
This kind of stuff.
what do you propose they do in lieu of like not having a disqualification, qualifications or countouts? What do you do instead?
They can cheat.
Yeah, but cheating then doesn't really get punished as easily.
Well,
So, like, how do you have the bad guys,
but
like
if the bad
out of just like escaping the arena? How do you have the bad guys who want to be like the chicken shits in certain situations? How do you then allow them to do that?
But if the bad guys cheat, it gives the good guys a reason to challenge again immediately.
Right? Oh,
Right?
no. Yeah, I mean, and there are dodgy finishes where the bad guys cheat and they win.
Yeah.
That tends to happen more often than the DQ finish.
I would rather see that every match in place of these DQ finishes and
I accept your proposal, but I think foreign objects should still be a match ender unless it's a no disqualification match.
Yeah, well, maybe in that case you can bring out the foreign object and the ref doesn't see it, and then you have a controversy. But then at least you have a legitimate ending to the match, and you don't have to like come up with a phony way to be like, oh, DQ, still the champ. Like what the fuck, man.
I'll agree with you on countouts, though. I think you could get rid of countouts fairly easily, and it wouldn't affect the show one way or another, because they go outside all the time, and it's very rarely a match ender anyway.
Yeah, and the thing is, if you're a champion, you can just do that every match. Then why don't you? It makes no sense. Like,
yes,
like not to skip ahead, but you have this Alexa Bliss thing where she's just gonna run away from the match immediately. But then Ronda's like, I'll let you have my back. And Alexa's like, ooh, really? But the thing is, whether she wins the match or leaves, she's the champion no matter what. So it makes her look like such an idiot. In that sense, to go back in the ring when the rules say you can just leave and still be the champion. And people have already paid their money. It doesn't matter what happens now. That's what wrestling used to be. It used to be you get the people in the building, and then whatever happens, happens. And you could do nothing. But at the end of the day, you've already got their money. So now that's how you kill the town also back in the day. But WWE, there's no town to kill. The town is the world.
That's true.
If one place doesn't want to see your product, somewhere else will. In the world, I mean, they've got this deal with Saudi Arabia where they just took all that money. And they'll be paying to see wrestling twice a year, every year for the next decade, to the tune of like $10 billion, something like that. But that's neither here nor there. I'm just saying.
It's definitely true.
Yeah. I'm just saying I hate these finishes, and I wish they'd go the fuck away. Goodbye. Because they don't make any sense.
Yeah. In front of the referee, why would you actually do that? It definitely didn't make sense when the Bludgeon Brothers did it.
We worked so hard to put ourselves in a position to win this match, and now we're just going to throw it all away. But it's cool, because we're still the champs.
Yeah. It's definitely strange.
Peace out, yo. Yeah, so, I mean, honestly, it was a fine match. The New Day don't really get enough credit for their work in the ring.
No, they don't. They're really great. They're a really great tag team.
And the Bludgeon Brothers, say what you want about the Bludgeon Brothers gimmick. It's just another, thing of Vince being out of touch, whatever. But they're great. They work well together. They all, I'm fine with the match. I just hated the finish.
Yeah, DQ finishes can pretty much go away.
Yep. Yeah, that won't be the last time I rant about that either.
No, it won't.
No,
because even though you want them to go away, I don't know if they're going anywhere.
Now there are scenarios where the DQ finish is fine, and we'll get to that. But so I don't want to go away. I just want to make sense. That's all. I just want my wrestling to make sense, Calvin.
I just
That's all.
want champions to be more accountable than people in regular matches.
Sure.
Like if DQs meant that the title would be upheld and we would have one more match, then that would make more sense from a sporting aspect. Like, you get disqualified, we're taking the titles off of you. You're going to have one more match against them, and then it's a do or die situation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm fine with that.
Which I guess is kind of how they handled it by making it a no DQ match later in the week. But
yeah. Braun Strowman, Kevin Owens. Spoiler alert, Braun Strowman comes in and he just ragdolls Kevin Owens and then he beats him.
That was definitely the funniest match of the night, except for Kevin Owens taking that choke slam, which made me cringe. I have lower back issues sometimes, and I just felt myself like, oh my God, that had to hurt.
Man, everybody has lower back issues. Everybody can relate to that. But it doesn't help when you're being dribbled like a basketball off of stainless steel.
By God, the man's got a family.
Pretty much. I mean, seriously, the impact on that choke slam, it was like a smack. Kevin Owens hitting the steel, smack with his body ricocheting off the steel and then hitting it again.
Nasty.
The human body's not supposed to act that way. And I'm, getting a little worried for him taking all these bumps. But it's cool because it's funny. Kevin Owens is funny, so we'll just beat the shit out of him every week.
I guess so.
It's like Stevie Richards used to think that Vince would put him against like all these tough guys because he thought it was funny to watch him get the shit beat out of him.
Well, Vince McMahon has a twisted sense of humor from everything I've heard from people who know him well.
Yeah, he does. But so do I, so it's cool. But still, Kevin Owens is too good for this. And thankfully, that issue seems to be over. So whatever's next, we'll see. I don't know though. Like, I don't want to say the match was unnecessary because I don't know what else you would have done with Kevin Owens on this show. And it made sense in a way that you're going to have Braun appear again in the main event, but it wasn't like he did anything overly physical. He just took a couple bumps. And, who am I to say? I'm not the wrestler. But Seth Rollins works a 20-minute match. Braun Strowman spends a combined 10 minutes out there between two matches. Just saying.
Yeah, it was just a vehicle to keep Braun over and build anticipation for the main event.
Yep. So in that sense, I guess I'm okay with it. But those Kevin Owens bumps need to stop.
Hopefully, he's getting hazard pay.
Hopefully, he feuds with like Dolph Ziggler in his next feud or something like that, so he doesn't have to actually take anything really.
That's right. Dolph could just bump all over for him.
Yeah. There you go. Charlotte, Becky Lynch, and Carmella. Now, I don't want to actually like get into a Raw review or a SmackDown review, because that would just take too much time. But I do want to link in some of the fallout from these matches, what else, if that makes sense. So here, the story is Becky Lynch, has worked tirelessly to get this championship match with Carmella, and now she's finally going to get it. But for some reason, and I don't really remember what the reason was, I don't really care what the reason was, Charlotte gets added to the match. Do you know what it was?
It wasn't a great reason. It was more just, Carmella, you're running away from everybody. Paige is like, well, I'm going to stop you from running away from everybody. You're facing Charlotte next week. If she beats you, she's added to your match at SummerSlam.
Yeah, that sucks.
Yeah.
You're going to stop running from Charlotte.
But yeah, it was basically to make Carmella miserable, which I'm all for. She's been a she's been a great heel in that I got sick of the sight of her very quickly.
Well, you know what? It was time to get the belt off of her. But that being said, I've been extremely critical of her in previous podcasts, especially the last one I did with Jen's Beauty Slam, where we talked exclusively about women's wrestling for the entire time.
Nice.
But this was her best match, and it wasn't just because of who she was in the ring with. She had that crystal clean dive to the outside. I was like, that was good, I think.
Yeah, she definitely did her part. She's grown in the ring, but she also had two incredible women's wrestlers that she was competing against.
Yeah, no doubt about it. But anyways, so the story is that Becky Lynch, has worked for this match, and then Charlotte just like mushroom stomps her way in, and
yeah,
and then pretty much mushroom stomps. I think of the visual of I don't know if you ever played the original Super Smash Brothers, or no, it was actually a Melee. But if you beat the stage prior in classic mode with 9 left in the seconds column, a cutscene plays and Mario's coming in to face you, but he gets stomped on by Luigi, who just pushes him down. And you're gonna face Luigi instead. That was exactly how I would describe the finish to this match. Becky beats Carmella, and then Charlotte steals the pinfall with the weakest of her 3 finishing moves.
Yeah, so this is where their grand scheme of things, or so it seems, everything could change, of course, turning Becky goes off the rails. Because in a triple threat match, where the fans are rooting for one person in particular, Charlotte comes in out of left field, breaks the disarmor, hits the natural selection, which is her finish, pins her, and in the minds of the fans, steals this moment that they wanted to see Becky tap out Carmella. How did they even think that Brooklyn crowd was going to be, yay, Charlotte, 7-time women's champion? Boy, I really wanted to see that happen.
Yeah, I don't know. But the thing is, I don't know what they thought. But I was cool. I was really cool with the turn, or the not the heel turn per se, but Becky turning on Charlotte. Yes. I thought that was well done.
The friendship betrayal was great.
And once that was done, it was then, going to be up to WWE to play it off the right way, to where Becky could become not a graveling heel, but more of this Steve Austin of the women's division that she was set up to become, and that didn't happen. Why don't you tell everybody what happened?
Yeah, instead? I mean, she cut a promo. The promo wasn't bad. It was just a forced heel promo. And again, it's just, they don't listen. Apparently they just weren't listening to the couple of months prior to this, where Becky was getting wins on SmackDown and she was getting cheered more, and then she was getting cheered more, and then she got the match with Carmella for a title shot, and she won, and she got the biggest pop out of the 3 coming down to ringside in Brooklyn. And then we're gonna switch her. Because we hate money. We hate it so much.
Well, no, they don't hate money. They love money. The thing is, money's coming whether people like it or not. So we don't have to do things the way they want it. We can do things the way we want it. And they're gonna like it because they're paying $9.99 a month. And they're buying tickets to the shows, and they're not gonna stop. We're going to do what we want. We're going to push the agenda we want. We're going to put the people on the talk shows that we want. We are going to put the belts on the people that we want. And there's not a goddamn thing anybody can do about it, because we don't give a shit about telling a story. We want your money. And that's my biggest problem with this whole thing. And yeah, so Becky goes on SmackDown, and all of a sudden it becomes an anti-you people type of promo.
You weren't behind me.
Yeah, and she basically like blames it on like millennials, right?
Even though everyone was behind you, we weren't behind you.
She basically puts it on millennials when in fact Becky Lynch herself is in that generation. That it was very clear who wrote this promo, and it actually wasn't Vince. It was and he volunteered. He outed himself on Twitter. His initials are RD.
Okay.
You know who that is?
I don't know who that is.
It's the Road Dogg.
Oh.
The Road Dogg was basically jerking off about this on Twitter after it happened.
Clean? He did come clean, did he? Okay.
Oh yeah, he happily raised his hand and said that it was his idea, and that it wasn't the story that was being told. It was the story that everybody wanted to hear. And basically what happened was Mike Sempervive from Brian Alvarez's Wrestling Observer live show tweeted at it and said, "Hey boy, your show could use some Jesus right about now, but you couldn't book him as a babyface either." And Road Dogg basically implied that he wants to kick his ass, saying that he should come by sometime, that he'd love to say hello.
Oh wow. Wow, that's great. That's very adult of him. Very professional.
Yeah, you know what? People on Twitter always like fire Road Dogg, and I never really got it. But after like hearing this bullshit coming out of that, the dude, to me, the dude is just a yes man. He's got a cushy little job as the head writer of SmackDown, and
yeah,
SmackDown's been good sometimes, but I think it's had more to do with the quality of matches that are being put on than it is the writing of the show. And it doesn't take a genius to put that together. If you have a show that is exclusively great wrestlers, you can't really miss. So then it's just a question of how much time you want to give them and how much direction you want to give them, and then it's the show writing and the scripted ass promos they put on. I
hope they backtrack. I really hope they do. I'm not expecting them to, because it's not in their nature. But Becky is a very over babyface that you will completely ruin because Charlotte's not going to get those cheers. She's got the pedigree of a Flair, and what comes with the name is you're considered kind of a heel, even though you may not be acting like one all the time. So it's very disappointing. Becky should be the top babyface female on SmackDown right now.
And she's the opportunity to become the top babyface in the entire WWE because of the way that she was able to effectively, work that angle after the match. And what was funny to me, and I think I remarked it this live, but at the end, they cut to a shot of Charlotte, and Charlotte's not really selling the beatdown. She's crying. And to me, that made me hate her more.
Yeah, I felt no remorse, really, which is a bad thing to say, because they wanted me to feel remorseful for Charlotte.
If we wanted to feel remorseful for Charlotte, she'd be selling the beating. Instead she's crying, and to me that's more of a heel thing than anything. And when she came out, though, even after she came out, I still saw Becky as the babyface. But they're not. I don't think they're going to go this way. Anyways, here's what Road Dogg said about the story not being told. That's not the story you were told. That's the story you wanted to hear. She had to do the exact same thing as Charlotte did, beat Carmella. They both climbed the exact same mountain. What a dipshit.
Yeah.
I don't care. I'm done, being nice all the time. I've had it. The stupidity with WWE is baffling. And you know, there's a
Yeah,
lot
the writing decisions lately have not been the best.
there's a lot of talk of like Nakamura going back to New Japan when his contract's up. And listen, I don't want that to happen. I want the best wrestlers in the world in the top wrestling promotion in the world and in North America. And I want the TV every week to be must see so I can tune in because I love pro wrestling that much. But it's not. And I don't know if it'll ever get back there. And we owe that to this writing style, and we owe it to a lot of things. We owe it to DQ finishes, we owe it to scripted promos, we owe it to having 10 writers on a show.
Nonsensical booking.
Yeah, I mean, and that comes with having 10 writers on a show rather than one guy just saying, here's what's gonna fucking happen. And then you have lead writers like Road Dogg who go jacking their shit all over Twitter. Like they're proud of their kill.
And it was so just blind, just to celebrate something that the crowd hates. The crowd hates that you're turning her. They don't want her to turn. And they're not going to boo her just because you want them to.
Yeah. I've there's really not much more to say than that. Basically, too long, didn't read. Becky Lynch turns heel, quote, and I use that in air quotes, but then actually turns heel on SmackDown, but not in the way that people wanted, but in the way that WWE wanted, so they could push their agenda. But I'll tell you what, Charlotte is on the fast track of becoming the female Roman Reigns, and that's not, an original thought of mine. It's what everybody else is saying, but the difference between the two is that Roman Reigns sells way more t-shirts than Charlotte does.
That is absolutely true.
Yeah, and we'll get to Roman Reigns. I'm not done with him. Neither is Braun.
No.
Be it as it may. Samoa Joe, AJ Styles in what I think was the match of the night. Would you agree?
On the SummerSlam show, absolutely.
Yeah.
The drama was real. The crowd was really invested. And they wanted to see what would happen. Many of them wanting AJ to win, which shows the great work that Samoa Joe's been doing on the mic.
Ever since AJ turned face, following the Shane McMahon match at WrestleMania, he has been involved in a lot of these really personal feuds over the WWE title. You had the Nakamura thing, obviously, and then there was also Kevin Owens. But those matches kind of, by and large, disappointed. The Kevin Owens matches certainly did. The Nakamura matches got progressively better.
Yeah.
But I was starting to wonder there for a second, like AJ's got this wonderful reputation. He's proven it time and time again. But when are we going to see that freaking nasty match again, like we saw with John Cena? And I think it showed up here. And I know this is the first match of the feud. It's going to set up more matches and bigger stuff. But I thought they delivered more so than any other match in the card, and I was sports entertained. What did you think?
I love my wrestling when I feel like the two people in the ring want to hurt each other. It's why Gargano and Ciampa was so good, and it's also why this match was really good. The emotions were real. The hits were harder. It felt like they were trying to harm each other. I know it's obviously choreographed, but within the realm of sports entertainment, this is as good as it can get.
Yeah. One thing I would like to offer you, though, is that after Joe cut that unorthodox pre-match promo and AJ fired back at him, they started the match with a lockup. I half expected AJ to just beeline right after him, but they just started off like a wrestling match. Now, it eventually got to that violent point, and this is a match where I would be a proponent of the DQ finish. Absolutely, but it took some time, I think.
So since I'm kind of a wrestling purist, I think an intense lockup to me is still better than, oh, let's just throw punches at each other. So it didn't bug me that it started with a lockup. Just because it's kind of part of the milieu. It's part of the wrestling thing. Like, we start with a lockup, then we start hammering down punches and kicks.
Yeah, okay. I could see that angle. It wasn't a big thing. It was just something that a few people pointed out, and I just kind of thought made sense. But overall, the best match on the show, and what was overall a good show, all things considered. But I'll just skip to the end. Basically, if I'm remembering correctly, Joe and AJ are brawling on the outside. Joe puts him down. Joe gets on the mic, and he follows up on his pre-match promo where he said that Daddy's coming home, and he turns to AJ Styles' wife, Wendy, and says, "Yeah, because that's what AJ says, Wendy, get the kids." And he says, "Wendy, looks like Daddy won't be coming home tonight, but I'll be your new daddy." And the crowd goes, "Oh!" And then AJ gets up and just clobbers him, and just loses his mind. Get the DQ, and this is a time where Joe is going to get the immediate rematch, and it actually makes sense that he's going to get it. So many times, the champion beat the challenger, right? And then the challenger will just have a rematch again. You see this so much in the tag team division, especially.
But yeah, I appreciate DQs when they have a reason.
Yeah.
Definitely.
So Joe didn't cheat. AJ got disqualified. He was justified in doing so, but the match didn't get an ending. So now we're going to see it again at Hell in a Cell, most likely inside the Hell in a Cell structure.
And that's going to be good. That's going to be really good.
Truthfully, I don't know why they can't call the pay-per-view something else. It bugs me every year, and every year I have to rant about this. At Hell in a Cell, I will defeat you inside Hell in a Cell. Like,
I hate it too.
Fucking superfluous. Just say the Hell in a Cell is at No Mercy, right? Or say it's at Unforgiven.
I know. I'm so tired of other than the Royal Rumble. The Royal Rumble's the only one that gets this pass. But for naming the pay-per-view after the match, I don't want any more Extreme Rules. I don't want any more Hell in a Cell. I don't want any more TLC. How about we just logically build up to those matches? How about instead of it being like, oh, it's Extreme Rules, so we're going to have an Extreme Rules match this month, even if the storyline just started?
Yeah, how about that?
How about we do things the way we used to do it, and it made a lot more sense.
And it still made money.
And it still made money. Sometimes it made more money.
Sometimes.
Yeah. I remember with Shawn Michaels versus Chris Jericho in their last match. It was No Mercy. It was an October pay-per-view. And that, because the angle was so red hot, that the buy rate jumped up.
That was the ladder match, right?
Yeah, that was the ladder match.
Yeah. It's another thing, I got to rant about in terms of this Vince McMahon roundtable we discussed. The branding of fucking everything. It's not a world championship. It's not a title shot. It's a title opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a hospital. It's a nearby medical facility.
Yes.
Samoa Joe, and this one of your friends said this during the show, and I just
yes,
I corpsed. Samoa, you know what I'm going to say? Samoa Joe is not a fighter. He's a combat athlete. Damn it!
Combat athlete.
He's a combat athlete. Say that, Michael. Say that, Michael. Or Tom Phillips.
He's an You can't say MMA specialist because MMA's doing gangbusters as far as money.
Yeah, he's not a mixed martial artist. He's a UFC guy.
Yeah.
I go on, but it's just fucking stupid. No one cares. All right. So,
Vince
and
language.
just talk like a real person. Do not know how to talk like how people talk, because ultimately people buy your shit because they find it relatable, right? People watch movies because they're relatable. People read books because they're relatable. People watch wrestling and sports because they can relate to their favorite athletes and fighters. When they talk like these Vince McMahon robots, these branding robots like Michael Cole, and I'll get to him at the end. What a moment!
What a moment!
Just screaming.
That's what they've decided.
Screaming in your ear.
We need to hear. What a moment!
In your ear, repeatedly. So,
and it got even worse on Raw. He said it like 8 times at the end.
What a moment! I'm just gonna spaz out at random times during the rest of the show and just scream, "What a moment!" Because Michael Cole does it.
What a moment! It's 82 degrees here in Los Angeles.
I kind of want that to be my alarm clock.
What a moment!
Yeah, I'll wake up every time, and I won't snooze through that.
Yes.
So AJ and Joe's going to happen again. They did have the best match on this show. AJ's timing, again, similar to the Ricochet Adam Cole match, was spectacular at times. Just always strikes me amazing how big Samoa Joe is.
Yeah, compared to, and it's just, there's not as many just really big wrestlers anymore. So when you see Samoa Joe versus AJ Styles, it's definitely a size difference.
The dude is wide.
Yeah, and he hits hard.
He does. And I think the spot in this match that, got me was, I don't remember what the move Joe did was, and I don't remember if it was like off the turnbuckle or if he did it out of the air, but he jumped and he got so high up that it was just like, oh my God.
Oh yeah, when he did the kick to AJ on the turnbuckle, is that what you mean? Or
no,
when he did his it was like a leg lariat he did off the top turnbuckle. That was
amazing. That's it. That's what he did. He got so high up, and if I'm AJ Styles in the ring, I'm about to take this move from this monster of a man. I'm just like, oh my God, and then you just take it, and hope he doesn't kill you.
Yeah, that was a really, and it was so great because it was just so out left field. Because I know Joe can fly because I've seen some of his earlier stuff, but he hasn't done it yet in WWE. So when he did it, it was just like, oh my God.
Well, hey, he's a combat athlete. That's what they do.
That's what they do. Lots of leg lariats.
Yeah. What a moment!
To become a combat athlete, you got to learn the leg lariat.
What a moment! See, I did it again. Miz Daniel Bryan. This was the longest match in the show, if you could believe it.
About how long was it? 25?
23:30.
23:30. It felt long. It was good, and the finish was about what I expected. I expected there to be shenanigans.
It was good, and there were shenanigans. But I think the crowd also tuned out of this one.
They just knew, I think a lot of people knew that Daniel Bryan wasn't going to win, so they were kind of waiting with bated breath to see how Miz was going to steal one. When he did, the crowd finally got a big reaction, but
I just thought of something semi-related to the match that relates to something not related to the match that relates to something on Raw that I have to rant about.
Okay.
So yeah,
go for it, man.
I'll skip ahead.
Let's do it.
The Miz and Daniel Bryan, what happens is, the storyline is basically Daniel Bryan wants to punch Miz in the face. And in fact, it is the Miz who wins by punching Daniel Bryan in the face with brass knuckles.
I love the return of brass knuckles.
Me too, man. I actually, a friend of mine well, not a friend of mine. My roommate's friend was visiting from out of town, and he bought some brass knuckles from like a store in Santa Monica. And I actually I never tried on brass knuckles before, but I was like, huh, this is actually kind of comfortable, and I imagine it would work.
Yep,
It's a legitimate thing.
Designed to protect your hand.
Yeah, yeah. So, anyways, so then after the match, Daniel Bryan's getting consoled by Brie Bella backstage, and that reminded me of how earlier in the show, Nikki and Brie are talking about being ringside so they could watch Ronda Rousey make history, right? And the whole place freaking booed that. Speaking of making history and this whole market women's evolution thing, we get to Raw the next night, and this is the one I tune into the show. I turn the TV on, and Stephanie McMahon is in the ring with all the women gathered around like it's the fucking principal's office.
Yeah, it was very. I mean,
and this makes me scream every time.
By design, because Stephanie is definitely embracing that she's disliked finally, which is nice for a change. She's not even attempting to give an element of being fair or being unbiased.
It always seems to be the women that come out of these things looking like the geeks. Take SmackDown, for example, when you've got the heels restraining Becky Lynch.
Yeah, the pull-aparts always bugged me because they decide that, oh, this is where we're breaking kayfabe. Oh, it's the heels are holding back the good guys. The good guys are holding back the bad guys. And they're not trying to punch them in the face, which they almost certainly would because it's pro wrestling.
Just use security, Vince. Just pay extras. Don't get the wrestlers out there. You want your wrestlers to look like superstars, not geeks.
Or do what you did throughout the history of time. I don't know why, and now that we're in the reality era, which Triple H dubbed it, that all of a sudden, like, we don't keep the wrestling tropes that are tried and true. The good guys hold back the good person in the feud is held back by the good guys. The bad guy in the feud is held back by the bad guys. Just keep it that way. Don't muddy the waters with whatever else you're doing on your show.
Yeah, so basically, anyway, Stephanie's in the ring with Ronda's belt, and
hey, I got a little rant in there.
Yeah, that was good. That was, and definitely worthy of one there. So Stephanie's in the ring with Ronda's belt. I don't know what's going on. I'm like, how did Steph get Ronda's belt? Like how did that go?
That is a huge plot hole, but again, pro wrestling, they just decided Stephanie's got the belt somehow. She could procure it. She's got the magic wand that summons all the belts. She could summon it to her at any time.
And it's like, look, the glue's out of the glue gun. In storyline, we know Stephanie McMahon hates Ronda Rousey, so why does she keep pretending that she doesn't? We get it. Ronda gets it. The jig is up. And so basically she just tries to take credit for everything Ronda does, and then Ronda ends up kicking her ass. And I think that's the third time that's happened since WrestleMania.
I mean, it's fun seeing Stephanie get beaten up. I'm not saying I don't get any enjoyment out of that, but where's this going now? Because, okay, Ronda's the champ now. She's been a disobedient, buck the system employee since she joined. But we already had a match between her and Stephanie, so what's happening now? Is this going to be the new Austin McMahon? I guess so. I guess maybe Stephanie's going to start building an army to try and wrest the title away from Ronda Rousey.
Maybe, but I'm about to connect some dots for you now. So, talking about Ronda being this buck the system employee, it's the same system that is giving everybody this women's evolution pay-per-view, right? And then Ronda being this rebel, she beats up Stephanie, and then she's celebrating in the ring with all the women, like they're trying to kiss her ass. I don't know. But if I'm a wrestler, if I'm a combat athlete,
athlete,
if I'm a combat athlete, I want the belt, and I'm not gonna kiss the champion's ass to do it. I want what I want, and I'm gonna do what I have to do.
Everybody.
It was the baby.
It was kind of late, so I was kind of late when I was watching it. So
yeah.
So I kind of like maybe my eyes were glossing over at that point, but I thought it was only a few of them. I thought it was just the Bellas and like someone else who I'm forgetting.
There was the Bellas, there was Natalia, there was Ember Moon.
Oh yeah.
There was. These are all the ones that are just coming to mind. There were more.
Okay. So it was all the babyface divas,
basically
women's wrestlers, I should say.
Yeah. Yeah. But let's be clear, Bellas are not women's wrestlers. Bellas are divas.
Yes, and I get it. They gotta push them. They gotta push their TV show, even though it's doing fine without them being on WWE TV. But like, why can't you just go with it? Have Nikki be a heel. Brie doesn't have to be a heel because she can associate with Daniel Bryan, but
they shouldn't be on TV anymore. They're done. It's over.
Yeah, but they got this women's pay-per-view. How would we remember them if they weren't on TV?
Well, I saw the greatest shit post on Reddit the other day.
Okay, share it with me.
That was something to the effect of how can we it was like sarcastic. How can we have these great moments in women's wrestling without Stephanie McMahon and the Bellas?
I know. What would we do without them?
I know it. I need to like locate this because it was so good. I'd like to laugh at it one more time. So yeah, I've gotten off on a bit of a tangent there. But I think that's. Go ahead.
Wait, you're telling me that wrestling fans have memory and we remember that it was AJ Lee who started all of this? Go on. Yeah. Tell me more.
Well, AJ Lee had the greatest line ever when she told Nikki Bella the talent is not sexually transmitted.
Yes. That was my favorite. She always had good one-liners, but that was definitely the best pipe bomb she dropped.
Yeah. if you want to call it that.
Also, they don't have the Slammy for best pipe bomb anymore. I wonder why that is. I wonder why that is.
I wonder. Yeah, they say wrestling fans don't have memories, but I've got enough memory to remember that I went on a tangent during the Daniel Bryan-Miz match, and I'm now circling back to it. How about that?
Let's circle back. What more do you want to say about it, brother?
Not much, because I think the fact that I went on a tangent during it in the first place explains everything you need to know. It was a very unspectacular match in a feud that has been, that has been hot and cold and hot, and now I guess cold again, which is very sad. Ultimately, at the end of the day, I don't think this match should have happened in SummerSlam. I think the first meeting between these two should have been at WrestleMania.
You're probably right about that, but I had a feeling no matter when they fought the first time, that it was going to be for the first time. Like, unfortunately, it's just WWE's thing. They don't like doing hey, it's the first time, it's the only time, whoever wins is the last one. Give us all your money, folks. They just don't like doing that anymore.
All feuds are mandated to go 4 pay-per-view matches.
It certainly seems like it.
That's the rule. Could you imagine if the UFC booked the same main event for 4 times in a row?
Well, yeah, they would not have the returns that they would be having if they did it that way.
Well, just saying.
Twice. How about just we follow other combat athletes, combat sports? How about twice? One person wins once, and then if they win again, same person, we don't do the match again.
Yeah, but let's space it out like 6 months to a year so people can actually anticipate it and get excited for it.
Well, again, I think it's the nature of the way they have to do their programming. It's hard to keep people apart. It's hard to keep people apart and keep your writing going. I don't know.
They got no problem announcing matches for WrestleMania 9 months in advance, but they can't, sustain proper feuds over the course of the calendar year.
Yeah, they're definitely not doing it as well as they used to. Absolutely.
No, they're not. Moving on. 4 more matches to go. Don't spend a lot of time on this one. Finn Balor, the Demon, is back. And he came back to defeat Baron Corbin. It was your standard Demon fare, except with a lot more tongue. Calvin, what did you think?
Yes, he was more of a panting demon than a snarling demon.
Do you think that Vince McMahon tried to teach him how to be more of a demon?
That's why he's using more tongue now.
You gotta get the tongue out.
Gotta get the tongue out there more.
Totally.
That was a good impression. I could actually, I could almost visualize that conversation taking place.
Yeah, seriously. I mean, I'm not even joking. I mean, it is.
But
funny.
I'm really glad that this was a squash. It only needed to be a squash. Baron Corbin is fine. He's the constable. Like, he's not going to suffer from losing matches. So doesn't matter how quickly you beat him.
Yeah. My only question is, why didn't Finn use the demon the next night? You think he has to recharge for another year, or do you think he just spent too much time in catering to get ready?
I think it's just Finn keeping a part of his character away from the writing team. If he's not going to win, he's not going to be the demon.
Yeah. Okay.
I think it's Finn controlling his own character to an extent. He's not letting them job out the demon at any point, which if he had come out of the demon, they still would have let Roman win.
Yeah, they would have killed him. It's a great point, though. They could keep this demon thing as like a whole separate persona to him, to the point where it's almost got like its Undertaker-like presence now, to where there could be a massive payoff years down the line.
I'm sure there will be. I'm sure eventually he'll get up to. I'm not seeing him coming Universal Champion anytime soon. I think they logically have to let Roman run with it for a bit, but it's definitely going to lead to him getting the world title back at one point. He'll pull out the demon.
It's just one of those things they can kind of keep in their back pocket. So I guess that's cool. Kudos to him. And glad he beat Constable Corbin in a minute 35.
Yeah. It's fun sometimes to see squash matches, and I don't know. Don't know why they don't utilize it more often.
It's fun to see squash matches, except when it happens to Kevin Owens.
I agree, but that's because I have a deep love and metaphysical connection to Kevin Owens.
Don't we all? Next match, and yeah, like I said before, after the Miz match, I couldn't believe there was still so much more time to go until we got to our main events. But Shinsuke Nakamura versus Jeff Hardy, they had a match.
It was a pretty good match for all it's worth, but
it was fine.
It was in the death spot, so
it was fine. I don't really know what the storyline is with these two. They did have a funny exchange where Jeff Hardy did like Shinsuke's taunt.
Yes, that was good. But yeah, this closes out the feud. I think Jeff's going to move on to Orton, and Shinsuke's going to move on to question mark. Not quite sure.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know where he goes. Probably. I don't know. Don't have any idea, but we'll hopefully get some clarity on that soon. The other thing with Orton is that, at the end of the match, Nakamura wins, by the way. At the end of the match, Orton comes out, and then he walks to the ring, and then he leaves.
Randy Orton realized that his stove was on. He had to go.
Well, no, I think he realized that his paycheck involved just touching the ring apron. It was contingent on that, and when he fulfilled it, he got the hell out.
I have fulfilled my contractual obligations. I am here at SummerSlam. You have all witnessed it. See you later.
Yeah, it was like universe mode.
Yeah, the random point where someone will just come out and stare at you, point at you, and then that's it. That's all that happens.
Yep. No dialogue, no nothing. Um, so I don't remember if it was between the Miz match or if it was after the Balor match, but Elias came out and he wanted to sing a song. By the way, no Bobby Lashley on this show at all.
No Bobby Lashley, and I had kind of thought that they were at least mostly penciled into having a match between the two of them, and that didn't happen either. They just kind of wrote off the feud, seems like.
We went from possibly getting Lashley versus Lesnar at SummerSlam to Lashley not being on the card. So
I don't know. That's
the
really
B team
baffling.
could wrestle in the pre-show, and so Nakamura and Hardy could have a completely average match with no angle afterwards, and so Braun Strowman could squash Kevin Owens, and so the Bella Twins could be backstage.
I just don't know. I'm not sure what their plan is going forward. Maybe they're saving him for something else. Maybe he's going to be part of the world title picture now, and they just didn't want to. They didn't want to keep him in an angle anymore. I have no idea. It is really baffling, though.
Idiots. They're idiots running this company. What else was I going to say relating to that? If I think of it, I'll come back. I'll circle back. But yeah. So Elias comes out and he breaks his guitar string, and then he leaves.
Yep, that's pretty much what happened. He did a funny shtick. He insulted the New York Brooklyn crowd, and then he couldn't play his guitar because his guitar broke. And I thought that was gonna be a segue to Bobby Lashley interrupting and laughing, but no, it's just I'm gonna fire my employees. My guitar broke.
Fools. And then we get the co-main event.
It was a nothing segment.
Yeah, I just had to mention it. Co-main event, Ronda Rousey over Alexa Bliss. I was surprised, but not that surprised. Because you watch them in the ring, and it's like what it makes you like wonder why Alexa Bliss is the champion in the first place. And I know I've loved her as champion, but you drop Ronda Rousey in now, and all of a sudden the dynamic just changes. No one can beat her. The women in WWE are not fighters. None of them are really. They're just not in that league. So how are any of them ever going to be able to beat Ronda Rousey? I don't know.
So I'm at least glad it played out the way it should have. I could have seen a number of different scenarios where Alexa Bliss could have like ran away or worked some sort of DQ angle. But I'm excited to say that they just did the smart thing. Alexa has no backup. She's going to be dumb enough to get into the ring with her, and she loses because of it. It was pretty cut and dry.
It goes back to my little rant earlier on DQ finishes and countouts. Whether she beat Ronda Rousey or just left, the result would have been the same. She would have still been champion. So instead, she was going to do that. And then Ronda was like, well, here, you can have my back. And so the face tricks the heel who's made a living off tricking people.
Yes.
Into believing her.
Alexa Bliss's hubris got the better of her. She knew she needed to run away, but damn it, she thought she had a chance. Maybe if I get this chin lock locked in, I'll beat her.
Yeah, and it was the worst looking chin lock I've ever seen. I mean, I used to put better chin locks. I used to put better chin locks on my brother when we were wrestling as kids.
Yeah, it just made Alexa look so tiny. I mean, she's already tiny, and we know she is, but it was like, why is this child fighting Ronda Rousey?
I know. She can never be the champion again now. It's over. And that sucks.
Yeah, I mean it's pro wrestling, so maybe she'll have a cast of 1,000 on in the next match, and she'll find a way to weasel a victory over Ronda Rousey.
You're right about one thing. It is pro wrestling, which means she's probably getting the next title fight. Even though she just got decimated with no offense. The cool thing though is that because she is double jointed, she can sell the armbar like nobody else.
Yes, better than anybody.
And that is a great utility to have, especially if you're going to do a short match like they did. After the match, Ronda Rousey's legitimately happy to have this championship, and she makes out with her bastard husband, Travis Brown.
So I'm totally not clued in. I don't get the hatred for the guy at all. I know nothing about this.
Oh, he beat his ex-wife.
Oh,
That's pretty much
it. That's definitely trashy. Trashy.
He was dating Ronda Rousey, and now they're I don't know if they're married or what. I don't know what their deal is, and I know Ronda is pathetically in love with him. She just says the cringiest shit, like I want to have his babies and just shit like that.
Wow,
just heel stuff in 2018.
Interesting.
The thing that I forgot in the previous segment that I wanted to mention was, looking back at these matches, it doesn't seem like much. But that's because so much of the show was filled with ads. And it never really struck me as that way. But now that WWE doesn't really do pay-per-views anymore, they just do what they want. They just add it up. And they do with the shittiest commercials too. Hey, did you know that WWE does not stand for World Wrestling Entertainment? In fact, doesn't even stand for WWE. It stands for This Is Awesome.
Yeah, well, I guess they can produce any commercial they want about their own product. They can hype themselves up however they want.
Yeah, with that cringy music, that stock music they put in there too. Oh, unbelievable. Last match. We've reached the end, but I've got one more rant left in me. And obviously we're getting Roman Reigns and Brock Lesnar, even though I wanted Bobby Lashley versus Brock Lesnar. And they didn't give me what I wanted. So go ahead.
So we've had a lot of stuff that we've picked at the show, but that being said, this is probably the best WWE show of the year. I was thinking back to how I feel about this show compared to how I was feeling after WrestleMania, and this is just a lot better. It was just a lot better. They kept me sports entertained, as you put it earlier.
I know, and you know what? It's weird saying that because we have picked a lot apart, but a lot of that hasn't had much to do with the show. It's more just their philosophy and just disposition on entertainment in general and life.
And how they react to us, especially the people who keep the lights on.
Yeah.
Like we used to be the priority, and now it seems like we're just watching this telenovela and they're going to make whatever bizarre choices they want, and we're just along for the ride. It's just, I want that dynamic to switch back at some point where they suddenly go, oh, hang on a second, they're not cheering who we want? Okay, well, who do they cheer for?
Well, it's the NXT doesn't have that problem.
No, it's true.
Anyways, Roman and Brock, before the match can even start, Braun Strowman comes out and
a thunderous applause,
especially considering how deep into the show we are at this point.
The crowd really likes Braun Strowman, and this is every crowd practically in every building that they go to.
Yeah, if you combine Hulk Hogan with the Big Show, he'd be Braun Strowman.
Yes. Yeah, either that or or like, I don't know. I think he's like if the Sandman was a giant and wasn't drunk all the time.
I like that too. That's an original one. So he comes out and he says, I'm no coward. I'm not going to use my briefcase behind your back. I will just wait, right? At first, I thought he was going to put himself in the match.
Yes, me too. And I was like, oh, please don't do that. Please don't do that.
I would have liked that, actually. That would have been different. But instead, he says, I'm going to wait right here at ringside, and I will challenge the winner. And he wishes Roman good luck and wishes Beastie Boy Brock Lesnar.
Beastie Boy. Hashtag Beastie Boy.
Now, I wonder, that line seems too good for WWE to come up with. I don't know if Vince knows what the Beastie Boys are. He probably doesn't. I imagine that was Braun's line.
I mean, it would have been great if it was. It got a great laugh out of the crowd.
I'd like to pretend that it was, so we'll go with that. Match happens, and Roman Reigns charges in just as the bell's ringing in typical, heel fashion. Superman punch, Superman punch, Superman punch.
He waited for Brock to be caught off guard, which was my advice as he was coming to the ring. It's like, just wait until he's a little bit distracted and you got him.
Yeah, I just say this Roman Reigns character is fucking pathetic. He talks about, and it's not really his fault. It's the shit he has to say. He talks about, I would have beat Brock Lesnar. He lost to him time after time after time, and lost to him fair and square too. But couldn't put his ego couldn't check his ego at the door and get back to the end of the line, work his way back up the ladder. Instead, he just cuts the line and just says, I'm Roman Reigns. I'm gonna beat Brock Lesnar. And here he is now trying to beat Brock Lesnar. The only way he can do that is by having to catch him off guard. So he does, and he dominates this 6-minute match. Brock eventually takes the edge back, but gets a little too caught up with Braun Strowman at ringside, jawing at him. So Brock takes him out. And then he gets back in the ring. Roman Reigns hits a spear, and that's it.
Spear out of nowhere.
And I wasn't sure what was going to happen. After Braun gets taken out, they may have cut back to him one time, if that, but that was it. They show Roman Reigns celebrating. They can't show any of the crowd reacting because everybody thinks Braun's cashing in still. And before they could realize what WWE had done to them, they cut. But not before Michael Cole could scream, "What a moment! What a moment!
A moment!
What a moment!
What a moment!" Yeah, it was a moment. I don't know if it was what a moment.
What it was a bait and switch.
Yeah, and what's sad about that is it didn't even work. It didn't get the desired result because ideally the goal was Brock Lesnar's part-timer. Brock Lesnar cheats. Brock Lesnar needs to take advantage of Roman Reigns to beat him. He needs to use everything under the sun. And now Roman Reigns just beat him. The crowd should be happy. And still, it's not working, WWE.
But it did work. You've
done this for 8 months now.
It did work kind of, because for the viewers at home watching, who knows what they're thinking. All they see is that Roman wins and that people are accepting it, because they didn't actually show. They couldn't show any people like clapping because no one was clapping. So what they did was Michael Cole got in his cute little line and they got the hell out of there.
Yeah.
It was very quick.
No. Yeah. I mean, like you said, there was no, they didn't hang on it for very long. They got caught a little bit of Roman celebrating. They went to a wide because they didn't want to show the crowd poo-pooing it, or sitting on their hands because they're waiting for Braun Strowman to get back up and do something. But yeah, it was a heelish way, not heelish necessarily by Roman Reigns, even though one could argue that the spear was kind of a heel move because Brock had just gotten back into the ring from beating up on Strowman. But it was a heelish move by the company to be like, yeah, maybe if you stick around, we'll give you Braun Strowman winning the world title. Nope, we're not doing that. We're not doing that.
Nope. But here's the thing. Why couldn't they just give the people what they want? Then you could go home and you could make all your money from SummerSlam, and then both you could be happy and the people can be happy. But no, they need Roman Reigns for their little talk shows, which I don't even watch. No one watches. I don't even know when they say like he's got to do media. I don't even know what that means. All the wrestlers do media.
Everybody does media. It's just very select people get to go on the morning shows. Only the special people get to go.
But I don't watch morning show. No one watches that. No one watches that shit.
I don't know anyone my age or your age who watches morning shows.
No, people go to work. That's what they do. Or if they're actors, they don't. Maybe they watch it, but
maybe
they're idiots. Just like the people that run this company. So we get to Raw, and main event is Balor versus Reigns. There's only one way you can see this going. Basically, what happens is Braun Strowman comes down again, this time in the middle of the match, and pretty much says exactly what he said the night before. And this time, he's going to make it happen. So, I believe Balor gets distracted with I don't remember the finish.
Roman's gearing up for a spear. Braun comes out, says, "Hey, I'm gonna cash in. I didn't get the chance to last night, but I'm gonna do tonight. I'm cashing in on whoever wins this match." Roman gets distracted briefly. Balor takes over. He goes for the coup de grace. It doesn't work. Roman gets out of the way. Hits the spear. Right. Yeah.
So that wasn't so bad. Of course he's gonna move out of the way at the coup de grace because
Roman had to get his win back. He had to get his win back from a couple SummerSlams ago, where Balor beat him to win the Universal title for the first time.
I thought that was Seth.
Well, he beat Seth, but he beat Roman in the
right. Yeah. I remember that. I remember where I was for that too.
Roman had to get his win back because he's just such a stand-up guy. He really cares about everybody. Cares about the WWE universe. He's a real babyface.
Yeah, well, yeah. So Braun comes in, and just like he says, he's gonna cash in. Well, guess what? The Shield comes out, and not only do they come out, Seth comes out without his title, and they're wearing their Shield clothing.
They're in the gear, which is kind of fun.
So they come out and they pretty much thwart this Braun Strowman cash in, and they beat the shit out of him, and they put him through a table and celebrate with Roman Reigns and we got to hear title.
What a moment another 18,000 times for Michael Cole.
What a moment! What a moment! What a moment! So I'm not happy about this at all. I'm
happy if it turns out to be a turn. It's just really strange that you would turn all three of them.
Well, you know what? It is a turn, but they're not going to treat it like one. In any logical sense, it is absolutely a turn. Here you have this guy coming out, and traditionally with the briefcase, need I say more, people will cash in advantageous situations after matches. Well, here you have this guy, and he's gonna he pronounces already his intentions. So mentally, whoever wins the match can already start preparing for him. And Roman Reigns lackeys, they're not. This isn't the Shield anymore. And by the way, the Shield was always overrated. I was never a fan of their getup. I was a fan of
shots fired.
Yeah, indeed. But I was a fan of how the concept of the group was really at its core that everybody brought something different to the table. Roman Reigns is the power guy. Seth is the speed guy. Dean is the more methodical fighter who can talk. Right. Mm-hmm. It wasn't as if the group was designed so that everybody could play to their strengths. Obviously, you look at Roman Reigns and you think he's going to be a future player, future cornerstone of the company. I have no problem with that. But I look at the other two guys and I could think the same thing. But yet, as time passed, towards the end, once they turned face, it became quickly apparent they were no longer treated as equals. And this was going to be the Roman Reigns show, and Seth and Dean were going to be his lackeys. And then Seth turned, and then it became the Roman show with Dean as the sidekick. But now it's almost as if Dean Ambrose injury never happened, and they're back together again, and they're gonna wreak havoc on everybody. They're gonna, I don't know what their deal is. I don't know if they're faces or heels. But what I do know is that what they did to Braun Strowman was a heel move. And
yeah, it was reminiscent of when they were defending CM Punk, which was their original stick. They were the shady group that Paul Heyman had hired to protect him.
And the problem is, it's not like
and there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, if they embrace the heel persona again, by all means, because they've got the two biggest titles on the brand right now. Seth's Intercontinental, Roman's Universal. So I mean, if you want to turn these guys, by all means, Seth is an excellent heel, and I'm sure Roman would be too. We've just never gotten the chance to really see it. I'm
sure he would. And we should have seen this 3 years ago. If it does end up being a turn, I'll be happy. I still think the Shield is overrated. I stand by that claim. They weren't really together that long, and they weren't even broken up that long before they decided to bring them back, so they could be their little cash cow again. So they could sell merch again. And
yeah, they brought him back.
And the breakup was strictly designed to get them back together again. As soon as they could, as soon as it was just far enough out of people's minds, they could start thinking about nostalgia. Except,
I mean, I like what they did with Seth. I thought until he got injured that he was doing really good work as a villain.
They want to play the nostalgia angle, right? But the problem is there's no nostalgia because WWE, when the Shield were in it, and WWE now, when the Shield are back in it, is exactly the same. There's nothing to reminisce on.
I see your point there, yeah.
You know, the show looks the same. The wrestlers are the wrestlers in their spots are pretty much the same, with the exception of a few new faces. And the booking's the same, and the matches are the same, and the titles are the same, and the announcers are almost the same, except now you have the coach, who I fully expect to come out on Raw next week and be like, well, in his little monotonous voice that doesn't change even when he gets mad. Well, Roman Reigns said he's going to defend the title every week, so he's doing it. He's a good fighting champion. A moron that guy is, or has become.
Roman Reigns is a great fighting champion, except for when he's definitely going to lose the title, which would have happened if Braun Strowman got to cash in.
Roman Reigns is the fighting champion. Coach, you're a dumbass. Thank you, Corey.
Bring Renee back. She was so great.
Yeah, and you know what? Like, I see Renee. Here's the thing. Okay, so one more sidebar, and then we'll wrap this thing up. And WWE likes their announcers to have this look to them, right? But that doesn't make any sense because during the matches and during like the show, you don't see the announcers. So it shouldn't matter what they look like, just as long as they can do the job. They can have a face made for radio, but that's basically what broadcasting is. It is radio. You do see them for a hot second, but that's it.
Yeah, it's usually for promotion. They're usually doing promotion, which is the only time you really see them.
So with Renee, now I will confess, I don't think as highly of Renee Young after she called Dave Meltzer a sweltering hot piece of garbage for pretty much no reason. It was
I don't know what's happened over the last 8 months, but Dave Meltzer is like the target number one of like every podcast. Seems like every person in the wrestling business has some gripe with Dave Meltzer. The dude is a match rater and a prognosticator, and sometimes he has really good points about the wrestling business, and that's it. Like, I don't get the overwhelming hate that he's been garnering recently.
Yeah, I mean, he's a great reporter with a good track record. I mean, honestly, any sane person will tell you that. But because in this day and age of this mob mentality, you get what you get. You get Renee Young calling a dude that she's never met before a hot, sweltering piece of garbage for something that he may or may not have said, and in fact didn't actually say, as it was said by Peyton Royce.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. Do you know that story?
No.
So basically, Dave Meltzer. I don't know if you've ever heard him talk, but sometimes you get the feeling that English is not his first language, because he just stumbles over his words and he tries to steer around things sometimes. So basically, in a roundabout way, he was trying to say that he thought Peyton Royce was more attractive before she got breast implants. But the way it came out and the way that it was described to Peyton by people that sent her the clip, it made it sound like he was calling her fat.
What?
Not the case. So she replied something to the effect of, "How do you think women? What do you think women in your life think of you now, Dave?" Or something like that. And then Renee was like, "What a hot sweltering piece of garbage!" And everybody's just jumping in. And Seth Rollins was like -6 stars. But I'll tell you what, his apology was a 6-star apology in the Tokyo Dome.
Right.
Yeah, that's
exactly.
a good joke. That's a good joke.
That's a good joke.
Anyways,
Good joke.
So back to Renee Young. I do think less of her now after like her overreaction to that. Kind of dumb, really. Makes her look like a dumb person.
Which is why I only go on Twitter when I really have to. I think Twitter is a garbage fire.
Like Renee, if you're listening, I think you're an idiot for saying that stuff. But what she is great at is doing the backstage interviews and kind of playing off the wrestlers a little bit with her facial expressions, and so she's great for TV. So I think that's her best role. And I've heard her commentary in NXT, and I was not impressed. But I heard her on Raw, and I will say, she was a substantial upgrade on the coach.
Absolutely, and that's not a hard bar to climb, unfortunately. But she was great. She's great.
Yeah. So yeah, the Shield is back, and I'm not excited.
I'm excited in the sense that it's something new that I didn't expect. When I started watching the Raw after SummerSlam, it was not the last image I expected to see. I expected to see them do more of a tease with Roman versus Braun Strowman. And that was it. I thought it was going to be very by the numbers. The Shield came out of left field, so in that aspect, I'm entertained by the idea.
Well, they can't both be baby faces, right? Now, I know WWE in their fantasy land will think that faces and heels don't exist, but let me ask you this. In life, right? You're going to either like or dislike people. That's pretty much how it goes. You're not going to go through life thinking that you're indifferent to everybody.
No, not usually.
Right? So wrestling is supposed to be this land that is not real life, but also kind of like it in some ways. So how can you think that there's no such thing as faces and heels when wrestling is just a microcosm of the real world?
And also, stories are better when you're invested in them. If everybody's evil, then I don't really care about the show I'm watching all that much. But if everybody's good, I feel the same way as well.
Yeah, right. I mean, I
need to have a reason to like you if I'm gonna like you in professional wrestling. I can like someone strictly for how good they are in the ring, but that's not all that matters.
Right. Now I'm kind of hoping Disney fucking buys the company because they buy everything, and two, at least they understand that faces and heels are the basis of which their company was built on.
Also,
there's no Aladdin without Jafar. There is no Woody and Buzz without Sid. There is no why is nothing coming to mind? There's no well, Winnie the Pooh doesn't really have a villain per se. I mean,
no.
The villain's kind of
occasionally on the cartoons they had villains that would pop up, but
there is no Hercules without Hades. You get the point. So that's kind of where I stand on it, and I'm not happy about this. It's just further evidence to me. WWE just wants your money. They want your money for you can buy their little Shield T-shirts and merchandise, so they can laugh all the way to the bank.
I want
in the process not giving you what you want.
I want this to be an evolution-like turn. That would be my ideal circumstance for Monday Night Raw, is to have a reign of terror with Roman Reigns.
Yeah, I mean, if they all came like open Raw and they came out in suits, I think that'd be awesome.
Yes,
but we know that's not going to happen. But I will say,
I'm afraid that you're right. It's going to be 50-50, and they're going to be like, let the audience decide. We're not going to really force this one way or another.
I'll say this, though. Crucial to Braun Strowman, everybody coming around to Braun Strowman as a face, was Roman Reigns pretty much hospitalizing, like pretty much trying to kill him after Braun beat him in an ambulance match where Roman went for the spear and then Braun sidestepped him and then just shot in. You remember that?
I know. It was the moment I went, okay, they see something in Strowman. They want to keep him. They appreciate the crowd reaction he's getting, and they want to keep it that way.
So Roman could be a good foil to that as a heel. But
yeah, I mean, that's best case scenario. We're gonna have to see how it plays out.
But hey, fool me once, shame on me. Fool me twice, shame on me. 5 times, 6 times, 7 times, 8 times that they could have turned Roman Reigns, shame on fucking me. And just kind of my thoughts on it right now. But we'll see.
Yeah, we'll definitely have to see. I mean, whether or not they do that, I'm invested in seeing how the Roman versus Braun Strowman rivalry, how it ends up playing out. I think they're good foils for one another. I'm hoping they keep Braun the babyface, but
yeah, I hope so too. And I hope they harken back to their previous feud as well. WWE likes to pretend that wrestlers who feud multiple times didn't feud the first time. And it's just weird because real people don't forget.
Oh, and I forgot about this. Michael Cole completely screwed up a call right at the end of SummerSlam. I forgot about this, and maybe they edited it out now.
What do you do?
He said that Roman Reigns was the first WWE Universal Champion. First person to hold both belts, which is obviously and laughably untrue because Brock Lesnar's held it for 500 days and was the WWE champion before Roman Reigns was even in wrestling school.
Oh, man, yeah, that's a gaffe. Besides, didn't Seth Rollins do that? Oh, wait, no, he didn't. No, he didn't. Yeah. Yeah, it would be Brock. So.
Yeah, it'd be Brock. Brock's the first.
Cool. Calvin, how can people follow you on social media?
You can follow me on Twitter. I'm usually just talking about Raw recaps and SmackDown recaps when I can. At CT Gibbon. And on Instagram at Calvin's Forever.
Nice. And of course, you can follow me, Jack Goodwillie, at Jack Goodwillie on Twitter and Instagram. And be sure to follow the Wrestling Estate at The Wrestling EST. And be sure to check out all the great content at the WrestlingEstate.com. Got some great stuff coming off this Vince McMahon roundtable. And you can see my rants that kind of evolved out of it there as well about Vince McMahon and the Shield and how WWE just wants your money, which is kind of, I guess, the theme of this whole show. But nonetheless, thanks for joining us if you stuck around. And I will be back next week with a to-be-determined guest. But with that said, on behalf of Calvin Gibbon and myself, Jack Goodwillie, take care, everybody.